everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Randy Sands and the Mediumship crew. We've got the group here tonight. Who wants to say hello to the good, happy people?
Hi, good, happy people.
Lester, you don't want to say hello to everybody?
You mean you got two Jacks over there? No. Only one Jack. Hello.
And tonight's topic is going to be on mediumship. Those times when you feel like you're not getting anything and, you want to start to panic, and what we do when those times come, or what can we do to get ourselves out of it. And by the way, if you enjoy this, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We do this because we want to help people. So the more it gets out there, the more opportunity we have. And with that, I am going to open the floor.
Okay, I guess I'll talk first. So, and it's funny because we were just talking about the whole idea of mediumship and how we open ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm teaching people, especially in the realm of presentation, so platform mediumship, there are moments that you kind of go, what's going on? Why am I not getting anything? And I try and remind newer practicing mediums to remember that sometimes when you're getting nothing means something. So you could start with, I'm getting a lot of nothing. Do you understand that? And it's funny how somebody will say, they used to say, nothing's going on, nothing's wrong, nothing. The word nothing is the thing, and you're getting stuck on it because you're getting nothing. But if that's not the case, I always say, spirit, I teach people to say, spirit is telling me, and by the time I say telling me, the rest of the sentence is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, if you work that way, then you understand that it'll just come. And you don't have to get caught into it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of trust in spirit. It's a lot of blind faith and being willing to stand in your confidence. I say the same thing, and it's weird because every medium works different, and we do the same thing, only different. Because what I start off with is I'm feeling nothing. And a lot of times I'll hear, oh my God, yes, he was always depressed and feeling like he was nothing or what have you. And usually when I get nothing, it's somebody that had some sort of emotional issue. So it's interesting how we work, and it works for everybody. The way they works for them. And that's the awesome thing. Is there's no right way or no wrong way. There's 1,000 roads that all lead to the same place. A lot of times I will tell my students that they need to practice. And people don't necessarily realize when they start on this journey that that's extremely important. Colleen, as you know, when I started out, I would go to workshops and I would be on fire. I would go home. I would do no practicing. 3 months later, I got nothing. I felt like, spirit just up and went on a long vacation. And then it's scrambling to try to get back in tune. So for me, what I figured out is it's practice. It's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it is. Go ahead.
One of the things that I tell students is, okay, somebody that's just starting out versus me is going, I have failed more times than you've even tried.
Yep.
And they kind of look at me, and it's like, I've made mistakes and I've done things that don't make sense, and they those mistakes are what click in your head to make the right decisions. Dawn, I don't mean to pick on you, but there was that moment where you had that horrible moment in church, right? Where you just locked and you walked away. And I didn't know how to help you in that moment, but you learned from it, right? And so when I tell people that you just got to keep making mistakes, and you can't be afraid of making the mistakes.
And you know what? You know what I want to point out there is, Dawn, not only did you learn, but Colleen learned how to help the next person in that situation.
And so did you, Randy.
Yep.
Because when we told you the story, you now know, okay, if this happens, I know how I'm going to handle it.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why it's also important to have a supportive spiritual community. You know, you have to have your support system. Colleen will call me. I will call Colleen if we're having a hard day or if there's something going on. One will check in with the other. And we both get to learn that way. And we both get support that way on our spiritual journey. So not only is it practice, but another thing that I want to point out is you can't have fear and walk this journey. It's not going to work. Okay? And it's vital. It's vital that I'm not going to tell you what it is you have to do. I'm going to put a whole list out there. Whatever works for you is what you have to do. But it's vital that you either pray, you meditate, do yoga, exercise. It's vital you have a relationship with your spirit guides. That's vital. But you know, you have to do some form of self-care and some form of connecting with spirit on a regular basis.
I'm going
And
to add
that's
something to that.
yes.
You also have to set time aside. One of the best things that I learned about my mediumship was taking a break and saying, okay, I have this going on in my life and I need a break. It is amazing how much stronger my mediumship is because I took that break. I know too many mediums that will work through crises in their family or health issues and whatnot, and then their mediumship takes a hit every time because they're not taking care of themselves.
I agree. And for those people that are close to me, I just went through some things with my sister's health that really kind of spun my head, so to speak. And I stepped back from my mediumship. I just started back doing readings a couple weeks ago because I had to have that break. And if I would have kept going, it would have been irresponsible because my head was over here. It wasn't here. And that's where I need to connect with spirit. I can't have my head over here. If that makes sense. Does that make sense to anybody?
Yep.
So let's talk about if, you know, because we've got 3 people here that are in Colleen's class and, you know, that I know as well, very well. So let's do this. Let's talk about if you guys have ever had a time where you got nothing and what you did about it. And let's talk about your practice, you know, how you stay connected with spirit. And I'm not trying to pick on anybody. So if anybody, you know, feels on the spot and you don't want to, just say pass. Nobody's on the spot here.
So before getting into a moment where like I blinked during a reading, I'd like to start with, because this was recently brought to my attention by people in the spiritualist community, is when you're doing mediumship, not only is like an opening, closing prayer important, like boundaries are too.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, like it's always good to take, a mediumship development class, and then whenever you feel like you need a refresher on things, it's always good to redo the class. And as many times as it takes you to do it, it doesn't make you any less of a medium. It just gives you the opportunity to relook at something that you looked at a year ago from a different perspective. But like with blanking, I've learned to, one trick is, not having anything, just like Colleen said, it is having something. There's always something connected to it for me. And sometimes it takes like a few seconds to be like, okay, with this emptiness, what is spirit trying to tell me? Whether it be, this person was depressed when they were alive, or this person was really quiet and that's how the world viewed them, or, is this spirit trying to give, that the sitter or the reader a second to meditate in the quietness and get up to the same vibration as like the spirit, because sometimes it's like they're on a higher vibration level than you are at the moment.
Okay.
Well, and there's also the practice the pause. You don't have to fill the silence. Sometimes silence is powerful.
And I was just going to say, and sometimes it takes spirit, a couple seconds to give us the information, and you can't be afraid to have a couple moments of just silence. We have to get the information, we have to interpret it. And sometimes that takes a few seconds, and that's okay. And that's okay.
Sometimes the quiet is better than sitting there going, or, well, basically.
Or in your head, oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? No.
Or you have a situation where you're in church and you've got somebody giving you foul language. Okay, you can't repeat that in church, right, Don? You had this, right? And I've said it a million times in church, going, this spirit swears like a drunken soldier.
Well, and he was a biker, but
huh?
But he was a biker.
A drunken biker. The language, and that's all you have to say. You don't have to repeat the language. You just have to work through it. And Tiffany, you said, coming back to class, everything we do spiritually is a spiral. So we're always coming back at a different angle, right? As we go up the spiral.
Yep. And a lot of times I'll just use the phrase, this person is giving me verbiage that it's not appropriate to repeat in this environment. And people will start laughing and they'll be like, yeah, that was Timmy. Yeah, we're just getting some language here that's not appropriate. It's definitely not PG. It may even be beyond R.
Right, and that kind of loosens up the energy in the room, because anytime you can get laughter, you're raising the vibration. And when you do that, raising that vibration just a little bit makes it that much easier for you to communicate with spirit. One of the things that I find really hard, if I'm walking into an environment, especially in a church, and it's really, the energy's in the basement, there's just no energy in the room. I'll look at everybody and I'll go, okay, everybody, we're going to sing Row, Row, Row Your Boat, and we're going to do it in rounds. This group, I'm going to start, then I'm going to point to you, you start, then you start. By the time they do the round of Row, Row, Row Your Boat, everybody's laughing because it's just so unexpected and it's funny, but it raises the vibration. So that's why it's so important that when you're in church and you're picking particular songs that go before mediumship, that you don't pick something that's at a funeral dirge. You got to have that vibration. You're raising it as much as you can.
I agree. And there's times I've walked up to the podium with platform and I'd be like, hey, how y'all doing? I bet you guys are, expecting me to give messages. Well, hell, I don't know what the hell I'm doing up here. And everybody will start laughing and I'll go, okay, 1, 2, 3, here we go. Boom. And, it lightens the mood. It lightens the mood.
And if you're standing up there and let's say you're the third medium to go up and you're struggling to find anybody, just go, who hasn't gotten a message yet? And pick one of the smiling faces that raises their hand.
For me, it's hard to start off doing the mediumship because the vibration isn't there. And it's my ego. I don't want to be the first one to go.
Well,
I need to let go of the ego too.
I'll tell you, it depends where you're working. Like there's client base, there's spirit base. I love spirit base. I love to say, okay, give me something. I don't like to pick people because then my personal feeling, and this is just the way I work, I then feel I'm going on a psychic level versus a mediumship level. And that's just the way I work. That's how I differentiate. Not everybody works that way. And again, that's the great thing is we all have different ways we work. But when I first started out, I blended the two. And I was in a workshop where I learned how not to do that. So I've kept it very separate. I've continued that. Now in spiritualist churches, they usually like you to pick somebody. And in that case, one of the ways that's really good is the way Colleen suggested. Now, if you're not necessarily in a spiritualist church, I'll just say, as I'm walking up, I'll say, okay, spirit, I'm trusting you. Give me something. And I'll just say the first thing that comes out of my mouth. Excuse me, my reflex is acting up. The first thought that comes to in, I will say, and 99.9% of the time, somebody starts laughing or somebody starts crying because whatever it is that came out of my mouth hits home with them. And then once I do that and that connection's made, it just goes blah, 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 blah. It doesn't stop. It's just getting that connection.
Well, sometimes it's not even just the connection. It's sometimes the person doesn't know. So in spiritualist churches, especially NSAC, which everybody here works other than you, Randy, we have to go directly to somebody and they may not recognize the spirit you have. And how do you give the evidence and whatnot? And you have to kind of trust your spiritual connection because they just don't recognize the person. They may have been a very young child when the spirit passed, or they didn't know the person, a lot of things happen, or they just don't recognize the spirit person, even though it's their grandfather and they gave the name.
I had somebody told me once, Ed, and I'm like, yep, nope. A couple weeks later, my Uncle Ed stepped in and said, what, you didn't want to claim me? I was like, oh, oh my goodness,
Okay, so I had a medium come to me and say, I have a Joseph here, and he's very protective of you. He's very much part of your life, and he has dandelions. And I'm like going, I don't know any Joseph. and it was in Lilydale, and I walked down the street from his from meeting him, and I went, my grandfather. I called him Papa Joe. I didn't make the connection to Joseph.
One time during one of Colleen's meditations, I got a message from my grandfather who passed away about it. The message was check on Mo. And there's 2 people that go by the name Mo in my family. And then my uncle, he doesn't go by Mo though. That's who it was about. And at the time I didn't realize it. And then once, the situation happened and how extreme it was, like sometimes spirit gets a little confused too.
Yeah, you just have to know that the messages will come and that they will get to where they need to go. And a lot of times all we're doing is planting seeds.
Yep.
We're not going to have this great breakthrough in a message we're giving. We're just planting a seed.
And
we're watering that seed that somebody else planted.
And that's one thing that I love about having my spiritualist church, but not being, and don't get me wrong, I love NSAC. They've done a lot. But it's one of the things that I enjoy about my church not being NSAC is mediums that come work at my church have the freedom to work in any way that they see fit. Because like myself, I understand why some people would want to go spirit-based. I can bring the evidence, and let the person claim it. But, we all work different. And I mean, think about if we all work the same, how boring it would be.
Oh yeah.
And there are times that, especially when I do my development circle, when I'm doing skills building, I'm working with the mediums that are practicing, and I'm going, okay, you're not going to anybody. You're just going to talk to the spirit you have. Because it's important to recognize how that works, because it does make it easier when you then are doing it direct, because then you can ask and interview the spirit in a way that makes sense. You learn skills.
I pause a lot when I'm doing mediumship, only because I'm trying to listen to what they're saying to me and then try and translate it into. So I have this bridge, I guess, that I need to build better. But sometimes I don't understand what they're saying, or it's not making sense to me, so it's hard for me to put it into words.
And that's when the questions, learning how to ask the questions is really important. And as a medium, I can tell you that was one of the hardest things for me. They say that people that are nosy or people that have a journalist mentality or like the inquiring mind mentality make the best mediums, because they're going to ask the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And I get so caught up in my right brain that I have to push myself to ask the questions.
Right. And there was a class that we took together with Lisa Williams, and she was like, you've got to make the left and right brain work together. And you have to make it so that because the left brain, which is the who, what, where, when, why, its whole purpose is to keep you safe.
And that's also the side that will tell you that you're crazy and to doubt yourself. So, you have to have a balance, there's got to be a midpoint where both sides are working balanced.
Well, and if you treat it in that way, you're telling that side of the brain, okay, you're part of this to keep me doing what I need to do and do it well. I need your participation. You need to ask that who, what, when, where, why. And you have to let my other side of my brain accept things in a way that's playful and might not be acceptable in your way of keeping me safe. So it's unlearning a lot of bad habits that we've had growing up, especially those of us that grew up in a world that said, you're crazy. You're not,
Or
this
or
isn't acceptable.
or kids were meant to be seen and not heard, because then you're not asking the questions, you know? So you have to unlearn that and learn to start asking questions.
I think the biggest thing that I have learned, especially recently, because since I've let it go, messages have really been flowing and I'm getting more confident in my mediumship, is if somebody's putting you down, just walk away from the person.
Yep. Colleen had an experience like that, and it messed with her for a little bit, you know? And the person had no right to say what they said to her, but they did. And, she had to overcome that.
And it's hard to do because you really doubted yourself, even though, I mean, for me, I've been seeing, hearing, smelling, feeling spirits since I can remember. But then it took one person to
Yep.
Oh, and they can take you and contort everything to a way to make you doubt yourself. And a lot of times it's what we talked about at one point, spiritual jealousy, right? They don't want somebody to do better than them.
Yeah, because the person that did it to her was, I believe it was registered medium in Lilydale, wasn't it?
Yep.
So, I mean, think about if you have someone like that stepping to you, criticizing. Now, later, if I remember right, they also apologized and said
Yeah.
they were wrong. But imagine the damage that could do. First of all, as mediums, as spiritual people, we should never criticize another medium for the way they work, because we all work different. If somebody is doing something that's inappropriate, you don't need to say a word, because spirit is going to take care of that.
But
Oh, my
it's
reflex is going crazy tonight.
but it's amazing how there are so many insecure mediums out there that will cut somebody down just to make them look better. And you have to know that that's the energy you need to walk away from.
Or not even look better, just to make themselves feel better.
They're so insecure.
So that
You
was
know,
my
and
biggest suggestion to anybody. You are a medium. Don't let anybody tell you you're not.
And here's the thing is that students of mine are a reflection of me.
yep,
They're doing better. That's a win for me. If I can
exactly.
stop you as my students from doing mistakes that I made, that's just going to make you a better medium. And so it's like, I want to push you guys and to do the best that you can, but I'm also very protective of you, and I don't want you to make those mistakes. I don't want you to feel like it's not appropriate to feel things because you have to hear or see them, because that's not how it works for you, right? And I try and show you multiple ways of how things work for people, and hearing different people how they work, right? You said something, Randy said something to you one day, and it was like all of a sudden something clicked.
What did I say?
I can't remember. But there was something you said to Dawn, and then she said, "Oh, Randy said that," and now it clicked, and I was like, "I've been saying
I
that a
think it's
while."
the left brain and right brain when they came out of coffee conversation.
But it was funny. But I mean, it's really funny how, it's like I said it, and it didn't click. But then Randy said it, and it was like a light bulb went off, and I was like, okay, I was just meant to plant the seed. There's no jealousy. It's just okay.
Or it was just said in a different phrase that, clicked at the time. And that's the thing is, and that's what I love about Colleen is we don't have to have any jealousy. There's enough business to go for everybody. we want our students to do amazing. We want our students to surpass us even, because, you know, that's what being spiritual is about. And protective, oh, I'm telling you, for the love of all things holy, don't let anybody criticize one of my students, because I would probably go from 0 to psychopath in an instant. You know, that's how protective we are, because you're not gonna damage the confidence of one of my students and get away with it. You're not gonna do it. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen, because I'll tell you about yourself quick and in a hurry.
Well, and
And
I think that there's a lot of mediums out there that will criticize in public and very stingy with their praise in public. And it really, you know, if you've got you've got a student and you need to change something, you do it privately and you don't embarrass them. You don't make them feel stupid. It's just what it is. And I think that there are a lot of times that people forget that.
and if you're gonna criticize, be bold enough to do it, and be open about it. Don't do it behind somebody's back, and, you know, don't do it and run. You know, if you're gonna do it, own it. At least then somebody can have a little respect for you. You know?
Explain why you decided to say that to somebody. Don't just
But
say it and then don't help fix the problem if there is a problem.
exactly. But, you know, that's I have said that I never had a problem with friendships and relationships until I started making them in the spiritual community. And, you know, that's kind of sad. I've never had my words distorted so much or what have you. I mean, I've had my words distorted a lot. So, you know, you guys as budding mediums have to know that this could happen to you. And you have to have the strength and the wherewithal to, you know, be like, look, that's not what I said. What I said was, and if you want to believe it, you go right ahead and let it be. You know, because eventually it'll come out.
How many times have we told people, let it be?
Mm-hmm.
Let it be what it is. And I can't tell you the number of times that I use that phrase.
And it's not easy. I mean, it takes practice, because there's a lot of times where I wanna go on blast and be like, oh, no, you know, it's this and that and this and that and this and that. But, you know, it's just like, what's the point?
Right.
What's the point? Because then if they're already believing a certain thing, then they're going to also think that you're a jerk on top of that thing. You know, it's just going to make it worse. Sit back, let it unfold. You know, and when it does, you know, just be brave enough to say, here is what I said. Here is why I said it. Or here is what I did. Here is why I did it. You know, maybe it wasn't right, but at the time, this is what I was thinking and why I did what I did. And if it wasn't right, apologize. You know, own it and apologize. If it was right, stand in your power. You know, but as budding mediums, you have to keep your confidence level. And you can't let any other people in the spiritual community change that. And then there's, you know, we're talking about the negatives, right? So now let's talk about the positives, because you have to have the good with the bad, right? There's a lot of amazing people in the spiritual community too.
Absolutely.
You know, the trick is weeding through. And you know, when I first came into the spiritual community, I came in with the mindset, oh, everybody is peace and love and happiness and oh, happy, happy, joy, joy. And I just look at Colleen and I just wanted to be everybody's friend. And it's gotten me in a lot of trouble. Okay. And a lot of the things that we're talking about, you know, like let it go, have happened in the last few years because I was like, oh, happy, joy, joy, flower children everywhere. You know, it's not like that. So when you're making friends, go in slow. You know, I've learned there's got to be a pause button. You know, you go,
There-
you say,
There's a saying, you say you're spiritual. Well, please define that because demons are spirits too.
I have to
Just
say,
saying.
once you find your spirit team on, like your people, it's amazing. And it's good. It's okay to weed through people. It's okay to see who's going to work with you the best.
like, this is part of my people right here.
Yeah.
You know, this
absolutely.
group. And what I found is like when I'm talking to my wife, because she would tell me, I wish you would just take it slow. You see somebody, you think they're wonderful, and you like jump in with, you know, like you don't even put your foot in, you don't put it up to your ankle, you don't even put it up to your hip, you just jump right in. Like, hi, here I am. I want to be your friend. You know, she's like, let's have a delay. Let's look at somebody and say, you know what? This person looks interesting. I think I could like this person. Let me watch. Let me observe. Let me chill a minute. They're not good. If they're meant to be my friend, they're not going anywhere. You know, and it's taken me a long time to learn that. And I'm not going to lie, I'll still learn. I'm still learning it because there's times where I'll see somebody and I'll be like, oh, I really like their personality. There was just one recently on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I like their personality. And I'm watching because, you know, I wanted to jump into the knees. At least I wasn't wanting to dive all the way in, right? But I was wanting to jump into the knees, you know, just the second step of the pool. And I said, no, let me wait. And sure enough, then I started seeing, you know, this here and that there. And I'm like, yeah, I can like them. I can enjoy them from a distance. I don't need to be, you know. But, you know, just get to know and find the people that are going to support you and encourage you. Lester, you have anything to add? You're sitting there awful quiet. You're like a church mouse.
Nope, I'm good.
You're good? I mean, there's a phrase I'd like to use, but, you know, it's not appropriate here. You're being real quiet over there.
He's being cool as a cucumber.
He is. He is. All right. Does anybody else have anything more to add? Nope. Well, let's say goodnight to the people.
Good night, people.
Good night, people.
Good
Dawn.
night, all you wonderful people.
That's
Good night, everyone.
And may your week be as amazing as you.